the cops on me. On a mission to be champs since they let me free.
Prepare for combat, my adversaries crumble. Face it, I got a reputation for damage. Busters get ready to rumble. They lock me in a cell, have me trapped in a living hell. Though not guilty, I'm still in jail. Brother, I serve my time like a soldier. Maintain composure. My shadow boxing, a fight to the death. Busting boulders. Every boxer with a pair of gloves. Best give up love. Here's a man from the makings of a thug. A lethal weapon, mind sharp. And in my heart, there's a wish to shake the world with the flurry of my black fist. Now once a high school dropout, now I'm the $1 million champ. Who's the next to get knocked out? Straight out of Brooklyn.
What's going on, everybody? Another episode of Cheap Seats Box Show. Angelo here. I wish I could tell you it was with JP, but I'm not. Yesterday, I couldn't make the show. Today, he couldn't make the show. So guess what? I gotta end up doing it by myself. Hopefully JP will get a chance to give you his version of the week's story. But first things first, follow us on Twitter at Cheap Seats Box. iTunes, Apple Podcasts, rate, review. You'll be the next unofficial sponsor. People, I need your help, man. Their show's catching us. I can't have that, man. I got to stay at least in the 4 position. 5, I mean, I'll accept, but man, you guys got to step up your game. If you haven't, take the time out. Rate and review. You will be the next unofficial sponsor. That's how we do it. We shout out everybody who helps us out via whether it's retweeting the show, commenting about the show, leaving a review. We always shout you guys out. We find you guys and we shout you out because we appreciate you guys taking the time out to do that. Follow the show on YouTube. It is going very slow. But I told you guys, I want to start doing other stuff, but if there's no subscriptions there, then I'm just not even going to waste time on it. But there's some different things I want to do. There's some shorter shows I want to put on there. Maybe topics that I don't hit during the week, a little cutting room floor type stuff. I want to hit some of those, maybe a little Q&As and stuff like that. So if you guys can, just hit subscribe onto the YouTube, and then we will start working on that. Otherwise, you can still get the show always on there. Welcome to all the listeners. We're on every goddamn platform there is. All right, let's just jump into it. Last week, George Groves, unanimous decision over Chris Eubank Jr. This is going to be the I told you so. Because, see, so many people on Twitter, people you hear on YouTube shows and other platforms, they use their feelings to get in the way of facts. And I started to do that, and I pulled myself out, and I called that last week. I said a lot of people were picking Eubank because of their feelings, Well, I'm not really, George Groves doesn't really excite me. And Eubank looks pretty good. Yeah, he's fighting fucking bums, but he looks better and he's more pleasing to the eye, But if you just step back and you take the facts, it's like, well, okay, I think Badu Jack is a pretty decent fighter now. He's really repaired his career. Well, George Groves fought him tooth and nail. I thought that was a very close fight. So obviously George Groves is a much higher standard of fighter than Chris Eubank was. But what happened was it just starts snowballing. One person says that they give you a reason why the Eubank pick was good, but then you start, if you just sit back and just take that first feeling, that gut feeling, like, no, I know that I seen what he was up against, what he was when he was up against a low, a higher level fighter and a Billy Joe Saunders, and you were going to get the same thing with George Groves. Love him or hate him, he's not a bad fighter. He's not a great fighter. But shit, the motherfucker was ahead against Carl Froch. Everybody thinks Carl Froch is one of the better super middleweights of all time, because super middleweight hasn't been around forever. But not one of the all-time greats, but he's one of the better fighters ever in that division. He's probably a top, 20 fighter in that division ever, 15 ever. And he was ahead on the cards when he got stopped the first time when there was a quick stoppage. So he's a decent fighter. People talked themselves into it, and he showed it right away. And he's a thicker guy, bigger guy. I told you that was going to come into play. More natural at 168, and he did that. He hit that jab right away on Eubank, and Eubank felt it because I can't mess with this power. So what do I have to do to get around this power? And it was, well, I'm not going to punch as much. I'm not going to leave myself open as much. And yeah, it wasn't the most aesthetically pleasing fight, but let's be honest. When it, and it's not. Trust me, it didn't excite me at about the 4th round. I was just like, it's just like I'm watching the same fight over and over again. Not exciting. So I get the people who complain about that, but a lot of people who complain about that are also the same people who tell you about how great an Andre Ward fight is when it's pretty similar. A lot of clutching and grabbing when the guy comes in close, hitting him with a jab. There's not that much stuff. It's the same thing with Klitschko. You know, we've seen this. You know, from that kind of fighter, it's a master class. From when George Groves was boring. Honestly, it's all boring. It gets the job done, but it's still a fucking boring fight to watch. So I understand why people would say that. You know, and people saying I'm not that impressed with Groves. Well, have you ever truly been super impressed with Groves besides the first fight against Froch? But he is who he is, and he's always going to fight the better fighters at a certain level, and his level is a much higher level than Chris Eubank. Ask Prince Nassim, he'll tell you. I called this one exactly. I told you. 6-2 after 8 rounds. I had it 6-2 after 8 rounds. I said Eubank will try to make a late rally. He did. Groves had to hold on, literally, because his arm fell off almost in the 12th round when he dislocated his shoulder. It played out exactly how I thought. We'll see if Groves can make the finals. And there's more to come on that. Danny Garcia, TKO 9, Brandon Rios. I told you this fight was going to be more competitive than people thought. I told you you're going to hear people saying, you know, Rios looked better than I thought he was going to look. Nope. No, he really didn't. He looked exactly like he always does and how he has been. Garcia is just not that good of a fighter, people. Especially at welterweight. He's good, serviceable. He's not great. It's not bad. He's just a middle-of-the-road guy. That's all he is. I told you guys. People are starting to come around now. The welterweight division is not as deep. No. I've been telling you guys the welterweight division is the most overrated deep division in boxing. It's 3 fighters. It's Thurman. It's Spence. And with the addition of Terrence Crawford as your 3rd fighter, everybody else is a distant second tier. Distant. Sean Porter cannot hang with those 3 guys. Danny Garcia cannot hang with those guys. And the rest of the guys are just has-beens. Or never will be's. Manny Pacquiao. Jeff Warren. I told you guys. Yeah, he did catch him. That was a good, nice, stiff right hand that he got him with. Was it right? Whatever. You saw him collapse, goddammit. I told you Garcia that fight was gonna be close. And it was very competitive. Rios caught Garcia way too many fucking times, and Rios is a shell of what he was. Garcia did less against an older, more faded Rios than even an older version of Tim Bradley did against Rios 3 years ago. David Benavidez, Ronald Gavril. I told you guys. All it was a subpar performance the first time around. I said he was going to dominate him. He did. I would have liked to see him get the stoppage, but fucking Gavril was tough. Shit, fuck it, what can you do? Dominated him. Benavidez, maybe the most. Him and Gaziev are fucking eerily similar, aren't they? So young, almost zero amateur experience. They have both of them. I think what does Benavidez got? Like maybe I think they both have less than 40 total fights in their lives. That's professional and amateur. And then you look where they're at. It's amazing. David Benavidez, he's a fucking stud. And he may have been a little inexperienced to get into that 168, but if they'd did him like they've done Callum Smith, he could have got himself to the semifinals or the finals. He's going to be putting a lot of fucking pressure on people at 168 to if you want to claim that you're the best, you're going to have to start going to that kid. Devin Alexander, Victor Ortiz. First glance, yes, Alexander won that fight. Ortiz has passed it. We get it. We know. Alexander looks like he's got a little bit left in the tank. But when you go look at them punch stats, it'll tell you that fight was a lot closer than everybody. Everybody was saying this was a 10-2, 11-1 fight. It wasn't. 8-4, 7-5, probably more close to 8-4. You know? I guess you could have worked to a 7.5. To me, there was no way to give it to Ortiz, and the judge who gave it to Ortiz is smoking fucking rock. But I don't think that this is a bump in Alexander's comeback. He's the one who comes out of this fight being more serviceable. If you see him up pretty soon against Danny Garcia or Keith Thurman or Sean Porter, you understand why. He's definitely serviceable. I don't think he is what he once was. And look, he's only 31 years old. He's not an old dude. But the way, you know, you can't really question him. The addiction was as bad as it was. I mean, he's never going to be what he was even at an age of 31. But he's definitely serviceable. And you know what? If you're a young guy coming up, he's that guy that you got to beat. If you can't beat a guy like Alexander, then you don't deserve to even be pushed towards title contention in the welterweight division. He actually should be fighting anybody at 147 that on the PBC side that they think that could actually contend for a title. I think you'd have to actually go through Devin Alexander. Ray Beltran, Moises Palos, whatever. It was a tough fight. Yeah, the scorecards were wide. You can't argue that. But Beltran's an aging fighter. And maybe he is starting to get tested because he showed his age here. He didn't look great. He looked good. He's serviceable. Everybody was excited for him. He won his title. I could care less. Look, you know how I felt about him. I said, hey, look, the motherfucker's been cheating. He got caught twice, but he's been cheating. You don't get that much power late in your career unless you're still cheating. You know, unless you're Barry Bonds. He just naturally got bigger and stronger as he got older. Or Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa. You know, guys like that. Roger Clemens. Guys like that. I don't know. This guy, I mean, with all the talk of Lomachenko's next opponent, you know, we know that his fight against Jorge Linares is probably not going to go off. So, look, you get him a belt at 35. He can beat and box the shit out of Beltran and kind of get an easy title, get himself situated at lightweight, and maybe then you fight Linares once he gets comfortable with the weight. Beltran would be an easy mark for him as far as I'm concerned, especially at the age, and I'd be testing his ass like stringently for that fight. Beltran is Beltran. I've never been overly impressed. Good for him. He's a workhorse, with or without help. Congratulations, I guess. I don't know. What the fuck you want me to say? It's Beltran. I don't put a lot of credence into what he does because of the cheating. I can't. I don't know what else you guys want. I can't do that. Now, George Groves throws out his shoulder. This could be something that really shuts down that final. And conveniently, Jürgen Bräumer pulls out of a fight in his home country in Nuremberg, Germany, against Callum Smith with a chance to win, what is it, $1.5 million, $2 million? $2 million in this fight for the winner. I call BS. That's it. Maybe that's the conspiracy theory in me. Fun fact, Nuremberg, Germany. The birthplace of your not-so-humble host. Yeah, little factoid there. Look, this is my conspiracy theory. They don't know if George Groves is going to be able to make it to the finals or not. Jürgen Bräumer can get people to, I guess, go from Germany to the fucking... Where are they going? To Saudi Arabia? I don't know. But anyway, you pull him out of the fight. If he has to be a late replacement, and because, you know, they always have these replacement fighters like the Nike Holzer, whoever the guy Callum Smith's fight. Nobody knows who this guy is. Callum Smith to win an easy, one-sided, mid-round stoppage against Holzen. But they get Bräumer to step aside. Say, listen, Groves can't make it. You're going to fill into the finals. You got a chance to win, upwards of almost $10 million, somewhere like that. So that's somewhere in that neighborhood. If Groves can fight, then, you know, we'll take care of you. You know, we'll give you a nice little a guarantee, a nice high guarantee for taking care of us. But they can always sell it if Groves doesn't make it. Well, listen, Brahmer was going to fight Callum Smith, and he actually never lost. So putting him in there seemed more fair than putting a guy who had lost during the tournament. This is how they're going to spin it. Don't think that this, because they have put so much into this first run of the World Boxing Super Series that they had to have some kind of plan like this in place just in case. Because the last thing you want to do is delegitimize the first installment of this tournament. No matter how successful the cruiserweight part of it, but actually, you know what I was going to say, the finals actually going to be at the O2 Arena. Never mind. I was thinking about the other one. So, yeah, you could definitely get those Germans to go over to the UK. Right? I mean, that's easy. That's the cruiserweight final. It's going to be in Dubai. I mean, Dubai. I keep on saying Dubai. In fucking Saudi Arabia. I just think that they're just covering their ass, and they're just covering all their bases. And trust me, Jürgen Brahmer, in some way, shape, or form, got some kind of kickback for that. That's just the way I look at it. It may be conspiracy, whatever. That's how I see it. Callum Smith, easy path. Boy, has anybody had an easier path to the finals in this World Boxing Super Series than Callum Smith? He's gonna go to the finals still fucking untested. Pathetic. Oh man, Jojo Diaz this weekend. Victor Terrazas on ESPN2. These cards, just these Golden Boy cards, just they are what they are. Terrazas, do you remember the name? He won a title 3, 4, 5 years ago? 5 years ago now, I think. Lost that title. In his first defense against Leo Santa Cruz. I had to play shit in my head, people. That's how, when I forget things, I have to kind of break it down in 3 steps. That's why I'll pause sometimes. In Leo Santa Cruz, I think that's when he moved up to featherweight. So that's why you know the name Victor Terrazas. Jojo Diaz should absolutely dominate this fight, but hey, Terrazas, he's a faded version of what he was. Jojo should either damn near shut him out or get a late stoppage, but it's Jojo Diaz, and he works his ass off to win every fight, even if it is a wide decision. Look for Jojo to get a wide decision victory over Victor Terrazas. I think Chimpa Gonzalez trying to come back after his loss. He's on the undercard. Those are good fights. Those should be on ringtv.com. These are not ESPN worthy fights. I'm sorry. To me, I loved what it was when it was Ring TV because it suited the situation. ESPN does not suit me seeing up and comers and guys like Jojo Diaz and stay busy fights. It just does nothing for me. That both this ESPN deals with Golden Boy and Top Rank respectively have left a lot to be desired. At least on the Top Rank side, we'll get Crawford and we'll get Lomachenko, and we even got Manny, and we're gonna get the Quig and you see here I go again. Here's how I'm gonna do it. Oscar Valdez fight. So we're gonna get some good fights. I mean, I swear to God, with the Golden Boy side of it, we don't get much of anything. These cards leave a lot to be desired. The ratings show it, but then again, the ratings are pretty low everywhere right now. What was it? 512,000 was the average for Danny Garcia. I know he's a superstar. 512,000 fucking sucks. All right, you're a welterweight guy. You were on fucking TV, on national TV. You got 5 million people to watch you and Thurman. It wasn't really. It peaked at 5. It was like, I think it was like in the low 4s or high 3s was the average. It peaked at 5. Whether that was for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, I don't know. But anyway, it averaged a lot less than that. But people like to put those peaks in there because it looks really good. It's like this one. It peaked at 587, but the average for the fight was 512. For the Garcia Rios fight. So we're starting to see numbers like that. ESPN did 714,000, and even the Fox card, Alexander and Rios. I mean, and Ortiz did 1.1 million for national, regular, free to air TV. That number is really, really low. all these numbers have been low. And you know what? Justifiably so. These matchups don't mean much of anything right now. You know, and as much as Showtime is a much better product on TV, they'll never be the king of boxing. This is where HBO still has them. The Superfly card will do better than any card that's been on Showtime in probably, I don't know how long. When was the last time Showtime did 1 million? I don't think Superfly is going to get to 1 million. I think it's going to get to about 850. It's probably going to, it'll peak somewhere in the 900, but it'll probably average around 950, maybe 925 or 825, 850, 825 is where I think it's going to average. And that's an Adrian Broner fight. And he actually draws on Showtime. Those are his numbers. Errol Spence did like 7 something. So Showtime, as much as they are the king of actually putting on really competitive, good fights comparatively to HBO, HBO is still the king when it comes to the ratings, especially with premium cable. Which leads us into Superfly. Juan Francisco Estrada, Sisraket Sor Rungvisai. I've been practicing, people. That's right. This is the main event. I think that this is going to be a highly competitive yet thorough, clean victory for one of these fighters. Now, remember when I was talking about feelings versus reality? This one falls into place. The feelings people have is, I remember seeing Rungvisai beat Chocolatito the second time. Now, the first time we thought he got beat 9-3. The numbers would actually back that up, where Rungvisai won the first 2 rounds with a knockdown and still lost minimum of 8 of the next 10, 9 of the next 10 actually. He lost that fight, and actually it was pretty easy for Gonzalez down the stretch. But then he stopped Gonzalez, and we could already see that Gonzalez was kind of like, he didn't look right going in that fight. You're like, this motherfucker looks like dead, like he's done, like he doesn't have the will. And it played out, and Rungvisai stopped him and got the victory. And all of a sudden, it legitimized the first victory that he didn't earn. And so people are running with that. This is my opinion. That's what they're like, I think Rungvisai is going to get him. You're hearing a lot of that. You still people here picking Estrada, but I think Rungvisai is too big, too strong. Listen, remember those last 10 rounds in that first fight against Gonzalez? That's going to be this fight. Juan Francisco Estrada, younger, maybe even a stronger version of what Chocolatito was in that first fight. Maybe. It's close. I still think that's a highly competitive, close fight if they fight again still. He's definitely a younger, fresher version and much more natural at 115 than Gonzalez was. And I think you're going to see Estrada box him, move, come in, beat him up, get back out. He's going to do a lot of what Gonzalez did because he's that highly skilled of a fighter to do that against Rungvisai. You're going to see that. I think this is an easy, clear victory. It'll be tough. It'll be competitive at times. Not to say that it's going to be a boring fight, but honestly, if it's closer than 116, 112 for Estrada, I'm going to be surprised. And I like Rungvisai. I love what he did. I love the statement that he did against Gonzalez the second time around, saying, if all the people who didn't think that I beat him the first time, I'm going to leave no doubts the second time. And you have to respect that. But then again, you also have to pull that aside and be like, all right, but that doesn't lead into what he's actually going to do against a younger, fresher guy in Estrada. Estrada's, 26 years old? He's still a young kid. He's still got 4 more years of top-notch fighting left in him. And I think that you're going to see him, I really think you're going to see him dominate. And he's gonna jab him. He's gonna box him. He's gonna come inside when the opening's there, and he's gonna start to punish Rungvisai late, just like Gonzalez did in the first fight. Will Rungvisai come out strong? Yeah, probably. That's his MO. He's gonna come out strong, but I think that you're gonna see Estrada being even more, because another factor is that people think, oh, I remember the first few rounds against Quadras. Estrada looked he looked, he looked a little flat. Yeah, he had so much layoff that he was flat, in my opinion, going into that. And he's going to be even fresher this time around. So I think he's going to start a little bit quicker. He's going to be able to fight off that come forward kamikaze style of Rungvisai head first almost to start off that fight. And you're going to see Estrada. I think you're going to see him in a very clear, dominant victory, which will set up a great rematch against Gonzalez. Because even if there is a rematch clause, a rematch against Gonzalez, I think is going to be far more lucrative than a rematch versus Rungvisai, which there's no reason that you can't do either, whoever wins that fight against Rungvisai, either way. Third fight for Gonzalez, second fight for Estrada, it doesn't matter. That's the brilliance of these Superfly cards. You can keep on mixing and matching and moving these pieces around. Give me Estrada, 117, 111. I think he's going to win 9 rounds. I think he's going to be pretty dominant in spots with some really tough moments early on. And I think he'll fight right through them, get into a groove, and then dominate down the stretch. I got to pause this guys for a second. I'm going to get into the car, and I'm going to drive home. You're catching me on my drive home. I'm about to be. So let me pause it for a second, guys. I told you guys I was going to be in the car in a second on this last part. Let's finish off that Superfly 2 card. Dani Nietes, Juan Carlos Reveco. Now, it's a fun fight. It'll probably be a pretty good action fight. But I don't have a lot of opinion on this fight. Reveco is not a guy who's never really done much, and Nietes is an aging fighter. I guess if I was going to call anything, just to call something in this fight, I'm going to go with Reveco on a split decision win to get past the aging Nietes. It should be a fun fight. I think that the Quadras McWilliams Arroyo fight. I think that this, on paper, has the potential to be a much more competitive, entertaining fight. Though definitely more intriguing because we know the names. We've seen both of these guys lose. Both of these guys lose to Chocolatito. Quadras had that win against Rungvisai. So we know the names. If this fight was 2 years ago, I think this is a 50-50 fight where I might edge Arroyo. But the fact is, he's not active. He hasn't even fought, I don't think, since the Chocolatito loss. So I don't know, especially a boxer. How's a boxer going to be sharp with a 2-year layoff? I don't understand how that's really conducive to being a good fighter when you're going to need timing and reaction to beat a guy like Quadras who can bang but who can box, who's not great at everything but is pretty good at everything. Although the matchup I think is better than the Nietes Reveco fight. I don't know. I think because of the inactivity, the layoff, that I just don't see how Williams is going to win enough rounds, because he's going to have to win enough rounds. He's not going to win on a stoppage or anything like that. I got Quadras by a pretty wide decision, probably 116, 112, 117, 111, somewhere in that range. Quadras, even though he does have the win against Rungvisai when it was one neck, or whatever his name was at the time, he's kind of in purgatory, is he not? I mean, I guess if he looks amazing in this fight, and then there's a call for him to fight the winner of Estrada Rungvisai, no matter who it is, and of course you guys know I think that it's Estrada. What's he gonna do though? Like, what is there for him to do? What is there for Estrada that says, you know what, I would rather fight a Quadras fight on Superfly 3 than I would a rematch against either Gonzalez, which he's been chasing forever, or Rungvisai? Now, if Rungvisai wins and stops Estrada, then yeah, I could see the rematch with Quadras coming up because, you know, he wants to avenge that loss. Yeah, it was a technical decision. It got stopped on cuts. There's a lot of cuts that always happen on when it comes to any Rungvisai fight. There's always going to be some kind of shenanigans, chicanery with the headbutts. But I don't know. I just don't know what Quadras is going to bring to the table to make Estrada forgo a more lucrative fight and take on Quadras over the other two guys. I don't see it. I don't know. I'll say this: it is a nice card. It is a nice card. Unfortunately, like most sequels, it's not going to be as good as the original. But I think that there's opportunity for a third time around to actually be even better than the second one. I mean, if they could get a Gonzalez versus Estrada rematch, Rungvisai versus Quadras rematch, that is a much more appealing card than what we're getting this time around. But either way, I think it's a good fight. It's a good card, top to bottom. I wouldn't call it a great card. I think the main event is a great fight. I think the card is good overall, and I think it'll reflect it in the numbers. Like I said, it'll do better than any other fight on cable so far this year, and you know, even Errol Spence's performance. You know, and let's jump back. I want to jump back a little bit to that. You know, we saw Sean Porter calling out everybody except Spence after the fight, calling out Garcia and playing a role. It seems like he's turned heel. He's trying to do this heel turn, and I love Sean Porter. I don't think he's an elite fighter, and I get what he's doing. He's trying to make things happen for himself. Because let's be honest, his advisor / promoter, whatever the fuck you want to call it, Heyman, it really hasn't done well for him as of late. He got the Thurman fight, which was competitive. It wasn't a great fight, but it was a fun, good fight. It was competitive. He lost that fight, but he really hasn't done much since. You know, he's supposed to be the mandatory for. I think he was a mandatory for Garcia, wasn't he? When Garcia had the belt, and then Garcia fought Thurman. They unified the belts, which made him the mandatory on the WBC side for Thurman. But then now that this fight with Garcia and Rios was another eliminator, a final eliminator, and the other one was just a final eliminator. I don't know what the fuck is going on. He is kind of in purgatory. It would be incumbent on him. If you really want a payday, you need to fight a guy like Errol Spence. You know, I think that's the way to go. I mean, that's the move to make. He's trying to make shit happen on his own because, unfortunately, in the PBC realm, you are a self-promoter. You know, and if you're not good at self-promoting, then you're just going to get lost in the shuffle. And, you know, for the most part, that's kind of what has happened to Sean Porter. So he's trying to make it happen. I get it. It's not the best look. It does look like you're, like, begging for fights. And it's not. He's begging for action. You know, anybody can fight those middle tier fights, but he wants an upper level fight. But all in all, you know, it's not the best look. It's not the best look for Thurman, and for Porter. And let's be honest, man, who's really dying for that rematch besides those two guys? And I think almost it's because they almost know that there's not a ton of risk involved in that fight. I don't think either one of those fighters risks a beating. There will be a victor. There'll be a clear victor. And either one of those fights, whether it's Garcia, Thurman, Porter, they're all going to come out the same. You may lose the fight, but you're going to come out okay. You're going to come out unscathed for the most part. Some bruises, you know. But what I'm saying is, the reason that people aren't calling out Spence, and is because they know that there's too much risk. You risk taking an ass whipping. You risk taking the kind of beating that can take years off of your career. They know what's up, you know. And I honestly, let's break it down like this. The only people asking for that Thurman, who really are clamoring for that Thurman-Porter rematch, are fans of the PBC. You know, that is something that has become such a thing my boy Vince was talking about this. Vince Cumming was talking about this. Like, people have become fans of promoters, which is an odd thing. You know, you're a Golden Boy fan, or you're a Top Rank fan, or you're a PBC fan, and you hate all the others. It's almost East Coast, West Coast, Biggie and Tupac shit, you know, going on. And it's not hard to see. And I think the only people really clamoring to really see that fight are the fans of the PBC. It's not a bad fight. It's not an awful fight. It's not like I'm not going to watch it, but it's not something that I'm like, oh yes, I can't wait for that rematch. And I think the only ones are the ones who are really good in with the PBC. Just like we have the people who hate the PBC no matter what they do, we have people who cheer on the PBC no matter what they do. It goes both ways. It's just a little bit more vocal on Twitter on the other side, where it's not, where the hate side is a little bit more vocal than the love side. Sorry about that, guys. I had to pause again. But what I was talking about with that, you know, and that's what I was saying. This all comes back around when I'm talking about how people feel. You know, they let that get in the way of facts, and it comes off like with these rematches or with the fights. You know, say like that Thurman Porter fight. It was fun. It was good. The people who hate PBC, let their feelings come in. They'll tell you that the fight sucked, or it was, you know, whatever. It was less than what it was. The people who love the PBC and because they get all the access to all the teleconferences and the press conferences and all that shit, they're going to tell you about how great that fight was, and it was a fight of the year. It's somewhere in between, people. Take your feelings out of it. Just see shit for what it is. These fights are okay. They're not great. These rematches would be okay. Thurman Porter, to me, is a much more desirable rematch than Thurman Garcia. Thurman Garcia, I didn't think was that competitive. The scorecards may have said that, but the fight wasn't that competitive. I'm sorry. I thought that was a wide, easy win for Thurman. Yeah, he went into retreat mode, but I thought he clearly, easily won that fight. You know, like I said, people, I told you guys, stop. I tell you, this is my whole point of the show. Stop letting them feelings get in the way of facts. The facts will lead you to the right places with these fights and the feelings in these fights. You know, I can criticize everybody, every fighter there is, and in every organization there is, but I'll always be honest about how I see things and how I view things. I'm never going to give you a biased opinion. That's just not how I roll. And I'm starting to hear a lot more shows, see a lot more people on Twitter starting to kind of come around to that way. We all have our biases one way or the other, but when you let it affect how you see things or how you talk about things or how you review things, I think that shit gets in the way, and I hate seeing that stuff, man. So I told you guys, this is going to be the new part of this year. I'm going to remind you motherfuckers why this is the best show, even if we can't get together, because we're going to give it to you fucking unfiltered and unbiased, and giving you guys the best entertainment that we can. We appreciate everybody who's always in there listening, all the people retweeting the show, all the people doing everything they can to help this show out, whether it's other shows, other hosts of shows on Twitter, and the ratings and reviews. I appreciate everybody. Go ahead, follow the show on Twitter, Cheap Seats Box, iTunes, Apple Podcasts. Leave that rating review. You be the unofficial sponsor. Follow us show on follow the YouTube channel. Get that shit going. I told you I'm going to do more stuff with that. I appreciate everybody who's listening. And remember, people, you know how that goes. This is where the fighters fight and the fans commentate. And we do it just like you from the cheap seats, because we ain't buying no tickets, goddammit. Peace.
Again, I'll be the next heavyweight champion. Call crazy, but no one can fake me. I'm the product of the projects. Lost and crazy. Throw your hands up, Mr. Bruno. Ride. Big Mike Tyson about to brutalize that ass tonight. No hesitation for the whole nation. I'll beat that ass so bad I probably violate probation. Through demonstration as I strategize information.